In this video, you're going to learn how to notarize any document. And this is going to apply to you no matter what state you are located in. These are just the general guidelines that every notary in every state in the United States needs to adhere by. Number one, you need to make sure that the signer personally appears before you. And what do I mean by that? Personal appearance means that their physical body is in front of your physical body. Now, if you obviously are a remote online notary, this can happen over the internet. However, unless you are a remote online notary or a notary who has been granted a remote online notarial commission in your state, then you can't do this, right? You can't notarize a document for someone online if your state has not given you the proper authority to do so. So that's it. Number one, the person must physically be in your presence, not part of the person, the entire person. And let's give an example. Let's just say that somebody's sitting in a car and they want something notarized, and you can see the top half of their body, their shoulders, their arms, and their head, but you can't see that there's someone in the back seat holding a gun to their rib cage, right? Forcing them to notarize this document. So unless you can see the entire body of that human being in your presence, you are not to notarize that document. Also, another example, remember the pandemic where things needed to be notarized and maybe the signer was in a nursing home and you would hand stuff or would be asked to hand stuff to someone and then that person deliver that thing to the person in their room to get notarized or signed? No. You as a notary must absolutely have that individual personally appear in your presence, their entire body from head to toe before you notarize a document. Okay, that's number one. Number two, are they willing and aware? Okay. Have they just taken medication? Are they being coerced or forced or anything like that? You need to know as a notary if these things are happening because you are the fraud police. You are the last step in fraud prevention in some of the largest transfers of assets and wealth in the entire country. So you have to have a sixth sense about things. And guess what? If you don't like it, that notarization ain't going down, friend, okay? Because you are the fraud police. You make a determination if that person is willing and aware enough to sign. And if you don't feel comfortable, guess what? You have them call someone else. You do not have to finish that notarization because you cannot say that that person is 100% willing and aware in order to do that signing. That goes in the case of someone that just maybe has taken some medication. It also goes into effect. Let's say you're in a situation where there's an elderly person and all of their family members are around them and they need a will notarized. And maybe this elderly person is not of good health and there's a lot of family members standing around just, go ahead and sign, go ahead, encouraging them to go ahead and sign. But you want to make sure that this person is signing this of their own free will. You might want to have a conversation with them. And you might want that conversation to be in the privacy of just you and them. So guess what you have the ability to do? You have the ability to ask everyone else to leave the room. They have to leave in order for you to assess whether that individual is willing and aware to do this notarization or do this signing on their own behalf. If everybody doesn't leave the room, guess what? You're not doing the notarization. Again, you are the popos. You get to tell people what to do in this whole situation as the notary public. Do not feel as if it's inconveniencing them or it would be rude or anything like that. No, you have the power. Okay, so we've talked about personal appearance. We've talked about being willing and aware. We also need to talk about verifying the identity of the signer. Now, there's lots of things going on now where people may not look like their ID. Okay, well, guess what? It's your job as the notary to figure out why. Okay, and yes, you get to ask questions, and you do so in a very professional and tactful way. But it is your obligation as the fraud popos, okay, to make sure the ID that's being presented to you is the person that is in front of you today, okay? And if there is a discrepancy for whatever reason, Maybe the person in front of you looks female and the person on the ID looks male. Maybe the person in front of you is fat and the person on the ID is skinny. It doesn't matter. You need to ask questions in a professional and tactful way to make sure that the person in front of you is in fact the person on the ID that was provided. Now, let's talk about the ID. The state ID that is presented to you must be in line with your state notarial law. In your notary primer, every state should have a primer. If not, then you need to contact your Secretary of State for clarification. It will tell you what is acceptable identification. There are all sorts of acceptable identification. It's going to vary by state law, but you need to know what acceptable identification is. You, as the notary, can sometimes identify someone based on personal knowledge, and that will suffice. Sometimes you can have someone who is a credible witness, right? You can have someone provide a valid ID, and you need to know what a valid ID looks like in your state, okay? So we've talked about personal appearance. We've talked about being willing and aware. We've talked about verifying the signer. The next thing you need to do is review the document. Now, you in this document don't have to know one another. You don't have to go into reading the entire document. The document details are not your business. What you are reviewing the document for is for any blanks. You want to make sure all the blanks have been filled in before you conduct this notarial ceremony. And yes, it is a ceremony, okay? So you're scanning the document. You're reviewing it for blanks. You want to make sure that there are none. Now you want to take the title of that document, and this is the next step, and you want to put that title of that document into your notarial journal. Now, some states do not require a notary journal, but if you are a notary and you like the fact that, you don't want your family's wealth or family's financial situation to be adversely affected by any of your notarizations, then guess what? You need a notary journal. I don't care if your state says yay or nay. You need a notary journal to protect your behind, CYA. Unless your state is going to come to your defense in the case of one of your notarizations going into court, then guess what? You need that notary journal to protect your financial interest in your family's assets, okay? So you're going to take the title of that document and you're going to put it in your notary journal, and you're going to review that document for blanks, making sure there are none. And then you're going to sign the notarial certificate and fill that in appropriately. Okay. And the last step, obviously, is to notarize the document with your seal and your signature and the date of the notarization. You never date your certificate for any date other than the date that you are currently notarizing the document. And if you follow all of these steps, then you in any state will notarize a document properly every single time. If you have any questions or you want some more training on this, click the link below for a free training on how to notarize any document, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.